Hey, I'm Ellecia, your non-monogamous relationship coach. Welcome to the podcast where my friends and I chat about our relationships, enthusiastic non-monogamy, polyamory, swinging, kink, and our lives. You'll get a candid peek into what makes it worth it to live life outside the box. And in case you're still wondering, nope, we're not monogamous. Hi, I am thrilled to share today's episode. I'm talking to Emily Otto. Emily is a healer for healers and an intuitive business coach, and she helps women listen to their heart's desires and create it through business and wild abundance. But also, she is a pagan, polyamorous, pansexual parent who I just absolutely fucking adore. Her journey into polyamory is an eye-opening one. She's experienced the challenge of finding other polyamorous people to connect with and the challenge of defining terms and boundaries in her relationship. You might relate to this. Open communication and being able to express your feelings honestly is super important in any relationship, but especially so in non-monogamy. And so we're talking about how important it is to discuss like the wants and needs of each partner and figure out how to fulfill them in a way that's mutually satisfying. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. If you do, would you please, big favor for me, I would appreciate you so much. And I might even read it out loud on the next episode. Leave a review on Apple or Podchaser or wherever you're at, or give us a 5-star little dealie on Spotify. That would be wonderful. Enjoy. That one. I did it. Sometimes I feel like a pro at this, and sometimes I feel like I'm definitely not.
Same.
So hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see you and to get to chat with you. Because I've been watching you on the social media places doing lots of fun things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why don't we start with okay, first why don't I ask you how about okay, I had like 6 thoughts.
That
Okay,
happens.
first, why don't I want to give you a chance to tell everyone who you are.
Sure.
If you want to introduce yourself a little bit there, and then I'll ask you a bunch of questions.
I was just thinking about that. Like, I'm going through this like up-leveling evolution of my business and how do I even articulate who I am and what I do? So here's the rough draft version. So my name's Emily Otto, and I'm a business mentor and coach for wild and witchy women. And it's great. I love what I do and who I get to work with and support. And yeah, that's the start.
I love it. It's perfect. It's so perfect, especially because when we're talking about wild witchy women and some of the things that those of us who might identify that way show up in the world.
Totally.
Not only in our businesses, but our relationships.
Yeah, making them all magical and mystical and really, really fun.
Yeah, totally. So okay, what is your relationship style, structure, identity? I don't know, some other way to say that.
Yeah, I feel like on the outside, when you're starting to learn about, oh, there's something different than monogamy and there's polyamory, and you're like, oh, it's one or the other. And then when you get
Hmm.
into it, you're like, oh, I'm fucking complicated, and so is everybody else. Which is beautiful. But I am married with tiny humans, and we're also polyamorous and pansexual and pagan, which is lots of peas and a lot of fun.
Wait, how many is that?
Yeah.
Pagan.
Oh, and parents, that's what I say.
Parents.
Pansexual, polyamorous, pagan parents.
Oh my God, I love that so much. The 4 Ps.
Thanks.
That's fun. That's funny that you said like people. I think a lot of people think like there's monogamy or polyamory, and then
Yeah,
they're like, we just want to do one thing that isn't monogamous, and then people are like, but that's not polyamory, and then other people are like, no, it is.
there's so many flavors and variations, and I don't know about so I'm also a Leo, and I just assume that everybody is like me. So I assume everyone is polyamorous
Uh-huh.
and pansexual unless they tell me otherwise.
I kind of do the same thing.
Right? Like you're available and interesting until you tell me otherwise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's amazing. Um, so have you always identified as polyamorous? Was it a journey? Were you monogamous once? Was your marriage monogamous once?
it was a journey. These are good questions. You know, when you said, "Have you always been polyamorous?" I thought about when I was 14
Uh-huh.
and had like two boys I was interested in. And I think maybe the idea started there.
Right?
Um, and then I was in a monogamous marriage prior to this one. So I've been divorced. And getting out of that marriage is what made me realize I was pansexual and got in this
Mhm.
amazing relationship with a woman. And then through the course of that, I was like, I need to be with a male bodied human in addition to you. So, how do we figure this out? And that was messy and clunky and terrible and amazing. And I learned a lot. A lot.
As
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah. And then when my husband and I actually met in a sacred sexuality shamanic apprenticeship,
Mm.
so it was very much like intimacy, sex, human bodies, relationships. Like, I want to interact with lots of humans in theory. You do too, in theory. And so getting
Uh-huh.
together, marriage and like talking about marriage was like, yeah, and I'm still interested in other humans. So we'll figure that out together. And so that's what we've been doing.
I love that.
Hey.
Mm. I love that so much. That is that's one of the big things I always tell people. Like people who are like dating or looking for a partner and they're like, "Well, I know I don't think I want to be monogamous, but like I want to find my person and then should we just be monogamous and then not?" I'm like, "No.
Mm-mm.
Begin as you intend to go on. Don't start one relationship and then be like, "Okay, now let's burn it down and start a new one." If you
Oh my
have
God.
that option.
I have so many friends, who are like, we're thinking of opening our relationship. We're just going to go for it. And I'm like, hold on.
I mean, that is a choice.
It is a choice. It's a choice. And like, bless the humans who can do that successfully.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
But there's just so much emotion and negotiation and what feels like the nuance of what feels good for one person and what doesn't feel good for the other person. And
Mhm.
um, it's just so much to navigate, which is why I say I'm interested in lots of other humans in theory.
Yeah.
In actuality, like finding someone I'm interested in and like connecting and do they have time? Do I have time? How are we doing that? What does it look like? Becomes a whole thing.
Uh-huh. It really does. Especially like with kids and businesses and uh, homes and just life stuff. It,
Yeah.
it's a lot to juggle. And then you add more people who have expectations and
And
life.
desires and life and calendars and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful mess.
When you were talking about when uh, your relationship after your divorce, and then like exploring that and how like the lessons, the figuring it all out. It's
Yeah.
like when we start dating, like we're like teenagers or young people starting to date and starting to do relationships and learning it all. It's like no matter what age you find non-monogamy, it's like now you have to learn it all again.
So much learning, so much learning. I'm so grateful to have had sacred sexuality teachers and then mentors and
Mm,
people to be like, what books do I read? Where do I go? And then we also, I had a therapist, she had a therapist. We had a relationship, a couples therapist together. And then I did like sessions with Kathy Labriola. She's not
yeah,
very well known, but I love her work so
she's
much.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
her videos on jealousy on her website are, like, so good.
Nice.
But you just ran a
Nice.
program on jealousy too, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
have a program on jealousy where I guide people through their like what's their personal shit, right? Because
Cool.
there's all of the advice on jealousy, but it's such a blanket, it's such a big subject,
It's
right? And
huge.
it's like you might be experiencing this 27 other things. And so we cover that, but then I go into like specifically what it is for them.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful thing of coaching and polyamory is, like, it's all about the specifics.
Yeah.
Intimacy, polyamory, coaching, it's like, but what do you need when you need it? And how do we,
Uh-huh.
like, work with that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because like you can get all of the advice. There's so much advice out there. There's so many books. There's so many resources. I mean, now we're pretty lucky now that no, the amount of resources that we have available. But it's you have to find the bits that are specifically for you. You have to
Yeah.
like wade through all of this information and find what's yours.
So exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you can just hire an amazing coach for support and have
Hmm.
them figure it out for you with you.
Oh, you didn't know this about yourself? Let me point this out.
Right. Right? Or like, "Oh, let's get specific about your desires," or, do you do, couples
I
coaching as
do.
well?
Yeah, I
Cool.
do. Individuals, couples, triads. I have not worked with a quad,
Woo!
but I mean, just relationship units, whatever.
Neat.
Whoever wants to show up. That
That's
says a
so
lot.
cool. Because it's like your stuff, their stuff, the interaction of your stuff, and then adding the other people and their stuff. There's just so many variables.
It's like stone soup.
Yeah. So it's like humans are amazing and beautiful and fascinating and messy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, well, most recently, a little bit of both. I think, okay, two things. The
Mm.
first biggest challenge is that not every beautiful human I'm interested in is polyamorous. Very sad.
Mhm.
I don't understand. But a
Relatable.
lot of them are. So that's really interesting because there's definitely now a preference for me to have friends who are.
Mhm.
Because if I'm going to be attracted and interested in you, I at least want to feel safe in my attraction and interest.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean it has to be met in a certain way, but I don't want to feel shame about it or feel like I can't have it.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
probably number one. And then number 2 is really identifying with my husband. So with tiny humans, the parents I know who are polyamorous, there is a bit of like pulling inward. It doesn't mean like
Mm.
connections to other people are shut off, but there's a pulling inward and neither of us had other partners really. And so the tiny human phase and like creating a baby with one other person, like there's real physical logistics to navigate with
Yeah.
that. And so we're in this like reopening up phase and we've hired an intimacy coach for each of us and then
Mm.
together, which is awesome.
That's
But there's
amazing.
really a like defining terms and seeing like, wait, I said this, but you interpreted it different than what I meant. So how do we get clear on what we mean when we're talking about these things?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh man, that is I would that's like that's a big one because we're trying to be like like create these really expansive, open, free-flowing relationships that Well, none of those words actually mean anything when it comes down to where your boundaries are.
Yeah. And
Yeah, but
getting
we said
brave.
open. Well, what does that mean? We said I said I'd be fine with XYZ, and you thought that was YXZ.
Yeah, and yeah. And there's this concept of like, oh, it's all about the physical boundaries. Like you can do everything but penetrative sex, or you can just like hug and snuggle and kiss each other. But then you realize like, but there's also energetic boundaries and time boundaries and
Mhm. Financial boundaries.
financial boundaries, and there's so many other things that it's like it's cute to think that these like little first base, second, third, and fourth are the things that matter. But especially in a marriage with little kids, there's so much time and energy that also really matters. Of like, wait, what do
Yeah,
I have capacity for?
yeah, 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 totally,
Yeah,
totally. That's so good. Um, I I see that a lot where a lot of the focus is on the physical and the sexual, and because I think that that's kind of our socially programmed, or like the social story around like what makes monogamy,
that
right?
makes
Or
so much
what
sense. Yeah,
creates security and safety. Like, oh my God, you looked at her or you hugged that person too long. Like, these are things that people get mad about, like
I
angry about.
feel that. Yeah. Oh, I had a friend who got mad. Oh, her husband he's my favorite dance partner, and she would get mad that he would be dancing in a certain way with somebody else, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't wanna. I just don't wanna.
Uh-uh. No, it's so inhibiting. And so you kind of have to go, well, what is the actual fear here? Right? Like what's underneath that? What are you actually worried about? If he's dancing that way, what does it then mean? Is he
Yeah,
planning a divorce?
right.
Yeah.
Right, and I almost think so for me, being pagan and polyamorous, it's like I was telling my husband the other day, it's almost like it's part of my religion that
Mm,
being able to interact with other people in an intimate way, like
yeah.
I believe that so deeply at the core of my being, I can't not do it.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 How
Yeah.
does he feel the same?
I don't know if he does. I don't know if he does. I think he's more on the line of, oh, play parties are cool and interacting with other people occasionally is cool. When for me, it's like intimate connection.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. We have a similar dynamic. Well, I mean, we've had a very similar dynamic where my husband is much more polyamorous and like heart-centered in his relationships with people, and I'm like, yeah, but I just want to go like fuck someone. Cool.
Yeah,
I mean, that's shifted over time for sure, because I have other partners, um,
cool.
but it really is. It feels like a spectrum, kind of like heterosexual to homosexual spectrum, like monogamous, non-monogamous, how much of that is emotional intimacy and how much of that is physical intimacy. And it's like, where do you fall? There needs to be like a big grid. Like, where do I fall? And where do I fall today?
Where do I fall today? And
Yeah.
I think that's the most beautiful part of being married and polyamorous is like, oh, I want to grow and evolve with you. Let's see.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Let's see what
I
happens.
I was reading there's so much horrible clickbait shit on Facebook feeds
Mhm.
about polyamory, right?
Yeah.
And there was one I almost tagged you in because it drove me nuts. This woman was like, I didn't because we don't need that. But this
Thank
woman
you.
well, you're welcome. This woman was like, "Oh, well, I don't believe in polyamory because I'm devoted to my husband." I'm like, Hold up, time out. I'm devoted to my husband. So devoted and polyamorous."
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. Oh, again comes back to words and what people think they mean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
so
uh,
yeah,
uh-huh.
the dichotomy of like black, white, in, out.
Open,
polyamorous,
closed.
monogamous, open, close, and it's like, oh, boring. How do we let it have more color?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Oh, that's so good. What would you say? Okay, there were 2 main challenges. One, people in your circle who are your preference for them being, open of some sort.
Yeah,
Um,
so sad.
how I'm curious, I was gonna say, how have you overcome that challenge? But I mean, like, that seems pretty obvious. But I'm curious how
Right?
actually, no, I will ask that because that's a
Yeah,
question I get
ask
a
it.
lot. How do we meet other people aren't on who aren't in the box, right? Like
Man.
people are wondering like how do we find friends that aren't thinking we're trying to steal their spouse?
Oh, yeah. What's really lovely is once you find one, like, they all light up. If you've ever gone
We run in
mushroom hunting,
herds.
we run in herds. If you ever go mushroom hunting, like, you see one little morale sticking up out of the leaves, and then all of a sudden they all light up. It's the same way with polyamorous people.
It's like buying a new car. All of a sudden you see that car everywhere.
Yes. Yes. And so once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I first found people online.
Yeah.
In my local community, there was a Facebook group. There's actually a beautiful, huge Facebook group for Grand Rapids, Michigan, not Lansing or Ann Arbor, but Grand Rapids has this beautiful West Michigan polyamory. And oh my gosh, people were asking good questions, getting good feedback. It was like really loving and supportive. There were married people, there were single humans, there were humans in all sorts of different, what is it? The anarchy polyamory humans. That's so
Mhm.
fascinating and awesome to me. And so it was that. And then there's you meet one and you hang out with them in person and they introduce you to other ones. And then there's parties and then there's kink and BDSM play parties overlapping the poly parties. And
Yep.
then, yeah, now I'm in Ann Arbor and both of my best girlfriends are poly. One has like 3 male partners and a couple other identifying humans. And it's just so fun. And we have like huge brunches with tons of humans and
Oh,
so good. And then the kink community, there's a lot of open and polyamorous people there. And this amazing rope man I've gotten to play with then inspired me to get back on FetLife. And so now I'm back on FetLife just for the events. Like, what's happening? Let's
yeah.
go see again.
Yeah. I always forget about FetLife. Like I have an account and then
Good to
I forget it exists.
So both my intimacy coach and I do some studying with Midori, who does
Yeah.
shibari. Both of them
Yeah.
are like, FetLife is a cesspool. It's mostly true, but it's really good for the events
Yeah.
locally and the
Yeah.
munches.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's like here's a place where we know we can find um like activities that are happening.
Yeah, alternative
Yeah.
humans gathering
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And then
Okay.
TikTok. Y'all get on
Oh.
TikTok, follow both of us, and then click
Yep.
into the hashtags for polyamory, pansexuality, witches, pagans. Like, TikTok is rocking it when it comes to alternative, beautiful humans.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I'm just starting to do things over there.
I see you
Like
doing things over there.
here's another new thing to learn.
I know.
Oh, it's fine. I got this. I got this.
Right?
It's fine.
That's your parachute. You got this.
I've been doing a podcast for a year. I figured that out and I was terrified to do it. So, uh
Same. Not a year, but same. It was like, I don't know. I'll figure this out. Okay, here we
yeah,
go.
here we go. I'm going to hit record and say some words and then stumble over them and then blush. It'll be
Perfect.
fine.
It'll be great.
Okay, so then the other challenge in finding common common understanding and in the way both of you are expressing what your desires are and what your boundaries are and how's that going? Any new lessons?
Yeah. So there's a phrase a friend shared with me once upon a time that says, go as go as fast as the slowest part of you.
Mm.
And I knew that from all the intimacy and the sacred intimacy coaching and teaching that it's like, okay, go slow, go slow, go slow. But if you study that enough, then you're like, I can also go fast and this is fine. But going slow and slower still, I've found to be really good. And then
Mhm.
patience, because just because I'm interested in somebody does not mean they have capacity and does not mean that like right now things have to happen. And it's such a different thing than looking for your partner to get married to and like have a life with and start a family with. Like we call it that relationship escalator, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, but in polyamorous relationships, like, hold on, that's not what we're doing. And the style is different and it gets to be, that's interesting
Yeah.
and wonky. It's been a wild ride. It's been I've had to learn different levels of patience
Uh-huh.
and then over communicating and then seeing and trusting that like this is going to be edgy to say, but I think it's also true in at least in rope and I think in BDSM exploration of like you have to trust your no and your yes, and you're like, maybe I'm sort of interested. Let's see what happens. And also, you're gonna step in the fire and it's gonna hurt from time to time.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
are things that you're gonna say yes to or that you thought might feel good, and you're gonna be in it and realize, oh, I don't want this way, or oh, this didn't feel good, or oh, I've got to ask for something different. And I think that's part of the process that we can't
Yeah.
avoid. And it sucks and it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 100%. Um, it I try to remind people and myself, that you get to change your mind,
You get to
right? Like
change
like people go,
minds.
"Okay, we made all our agreements, we're ready to go, let's do this." And then someone has hurt feelings and they're like, "Well, you said you'd be fine with this." Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that was before it ever happened.
That was in theory, right? It was like, in
Totally
theory,
thought I'd
that
be
was
fine.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's been very slow of like, you said it was okay if I made out with this person. I kissed them a few times and oh, that didn't feel great. Okay, why didn't it feel great? How do
Mm,
we figure that out? What do I want? What does that other person want? What do you want?
yeah.
And like being, I think the brutal honesty with ourselves is so important. Like, what do
Mm,
I really, really want? What do I want?
yeah,
And then seeing what's possible. What do I have capacity for? What feels good for the person I'm interested in? What feels good for my husband? What do I need?
yeah,
What do they need?
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really, really important piece that gets kind of missed is the needs, or it gets kind of conflated with wants, right?
I
Like
think you're
w-
right.
w- yeah, like what are the things that I actually need to have in this to feel safe, to feel like I'm honoring myself and my own personal boundaries? Like what are my needs? And and the thing I see the most, the kind of a mistake that I see it happen a lot is where people agree to things they don't want to agree to, that are not honoring themselves, but they're like, well, my partner wants this, so I'm going to give it a shot. And they say yes, and then they're resentful. And then it creates this whole, uh, I don't know, like tornado that happens because
Yeah.
actually you said yes to a thing you definitely didn't want. Yeah.
Right. And then I think there's a sense of feeling trapped or stuck or like, well, I said it was okay, so now I have to figure out a way to make it okay, even though it's not okay.
Yeah.
Instead
Yeah.
of renegotiating.
Uh huh.
Um, we ran into that of so my husband went out to a play date with a friend and it was the first one since babies and marriage and I was like,
Mm.
I love her. I love her. She's such a cool human. And I'm also blessed with really good communicators. So she had texted me and said, do you need anything from me? I love and adore you. What do you need? And I
Oh.
was like, I'm good. You guys like had a thing before. It's totally cool. Very well boundaried, communicated the boundaries with my husband of like what was going to happen or not going to happen. And when he came home, I was just like, "Ooh, no, I need some reintegration. Like, this feels clunky. This is intense. It won't always be intense, but in this moment, like,
Yeah.
I need a little bit of space. Like, and I don't want to know about any details right now. Like, don't tell me anything. Glad you're home. Glad you had a good time. We'll talk more later." And then he's had other play dates since then where it's so much easier of like,
Yeah.
it's fine. But
Yeah.
I needed to renegotiate and check in with myself and ask for things differently and have that honored and met. And then, okay, let's see. What do we need to change or do differently? And I still want you to connect and I still want to have this experience. So here we go.
Mm. That's so good. Way to take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks.
that's really, really good. Um, and that, I mean, that comes from practice of listening to your body and your mind and what you need.
Right? That's like 5 years of intentional practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, with my ex-girlfriend, she really wanted the solution to be going to swinger clubs.
Mhm.
And I really wanted like more conversation, more regular intimate connection. And she was like, well, we'll just hook up with some people and that'll be it. And then, that's fine. And we'll just never see them again. And that was really jarring for my nervous system. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not what I want in this moment. Like, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just didn't work for me in that moment. But I had to
Mhm.
learn and say, oh, wait a second. That's not what I'm interested in right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Having
Yeah.
those experiences.
Oh my god, and that, like and say like, yeah, and we had sex with another couple, and then it was, like, the next day, I was just reeling in, like,
Mhm.
a spiral of, "Whoa, that was too much for me." Like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So, it comes with a lot of trial and error, and I think if you hire someone sooner rather than later, you get less error and, like, traumas or, like, mm, mini, like, things you need to recover from.
Yeah, like ruptures.
Ruptures, beautiful word. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like, "Oh, wow, that was a big fat bump in the road."
big fat
That was
bump.
really jarring. I should probably take the car to the shop because something broke.
Brilliant analogy. Yeah, instead of, like, drive the broken car for 10 more years.
Yeah. I use speed bumps is one of the analogies I use with my clients
Mhm.
is like, nobody likes speed bumps. Nobody wants to drive over them. They're so annoying. Ugh. But they're there so we don't kill kids. Like,
I
they're
love
essential.
that. Like,
They're
slow
important.
down, slow
Slow
down.
down. There's children playing here. Somebody's going to die if you don't slow down. And in relationships, especially relationships that are opening up or in transition,
Yeah.
right? And we're like, I don't want to follow I don't want to make these agreements that feel like they're slowing us down and they're
Mm.
annoying and I'm not getting to the thing I want fast enough.
Yeah,
But they're stopping you from killing kids. The kids
yeah.
being like our relationship. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
there's been many, like 2 or 3 humans that have been like, "I am ready to open my relationship. I'm attracted to someone. Here we go." And I've been like, slow, hold on."
God. I already have someone lined up. How do I tell my husband?
Right,
Whew.
right, right. Or like a,
They're gonna be
"Well,"
just as stoked as you are, I'm sure.
right, right, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting world, but that's part of why I think it's so much fun to be polyamorous instead is
Mm,
like, "Oh, yay, let's see." There's
yeah.
so many cool humans, and there's so many different ways of relating to each other, and that's awesome.
Mm, it really is. I know when so I similarly was married and then got divorced and was like, well, don't want to be monogamous again. Um
Yeah.
and I was like, I really thought like really just what I wanted was like sexual variety. I was very much of the mind of that means I'm gonna have a lot of intercourse. Because at the time I was like, when I was married, I was like, I don't share and I'm straight. Turns out no,
Mhm.
neither of those are true. Um, but I had a very, very heteronormative idea of what sex was, and especially what non-monogamous sex was. Like, this means I'm gonna go have, like my husband and I, when we started dating, like, we went to swingers clubs, and it was very much like, yeah, we're just gonna go hook up with people. It'll be great. And then afterwards we were like, well, I'd like to talk to them again because they were really awesome. And I'd like to do that again
Totally.
with the same person because the first time is never the best time.
Never, ever, never. Yeah.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And it's evolved to a point now where I'm like, we went to a big swinger weekend, like a hotel takeover a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago in
yay.
Whistler. It was fantastic. Holy shit. But
Awesome.
going into it, I was like, I actually am not intending to have sex with anyone. Like, I was like, I just really want to go and flirt and like see
Oh,
naked people and just
yes.
have like create like energetic connections and then leave it there. Like,
Oh my
I was
god,
just
yes.
that was what I was like. I wound up having sex with someone. It was really, really great time. Holy shit. But it was
Yay.
like it wasn't what I was looking for, which means that I was open to something that was like had insane chemistry.
I love that. Hi, I would like some of that.
Uh-huh.
Have you been to any of, like, the BDSM conventions? I'm looking at Dark Odyssey and thinking to go sometime soon.
Ooh, I have not been to any of the let me think about this.
I know, right? Like, "What was that
Have
category,
I? No,
Stas?"
I
Yeah.
don't think I have not.
Yeah.
No.
I'm looking at it,
Probably
and I just wanna watch. Like, I wanna watch, I wanna see what's available, like, there you eat meat and potatoes your whole life, and you're like, "The
mhm.
only meal is meat and potatoes," and then you have sweet potatoes and greens, and you're like, "The fuck is this? Can I get more of that? How many different ways are there to cook sweet potatoes?" And that's where I feel like I'm at of like, "Wait, what else is available, and how do I get samples of it?"
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, totally. I think I don't think there's ever an end to the possibilities. Like, you can't
That's so
hit the
great.
point where you've learned all of the sex things and all of the pleasure things. Like,
I
there's
love
always more.
that.
There's
I love
always more.
Yeah. It's the
And it's
best.
funny because people will ask like, "Oh, like, what are your fantasies?" And I'm like, "God, I don't fantasize about anything I haven't done anymore." Um, but
Oh, I
I'm
love
open to
that.
trying all the things I've enjoyed with a new person.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, like,
That's a
seeing what do
fantasy.
they enjoy? How do we play with that?
Yeah.
The rope bondage human that I get to play with, it's just blowing my brain up in really good ways. It's like, "Wait, what's
Mhm.
possible? Hold on. What can we do? Wait, what is happening right now?" So
Uh-huh.
good. Um, Pre-consented upon, but
Uh-huh.
it's like I love that. I don't do I fantasize? Not a little. I've been getting into a lot of really good like BDSM erotic um writing, literature that's
Yes.
actually like really good and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a lot of that, but most of mine is like
Mhm.
in space or like post-apocalyptic and like very sci-fi and fucking weird.
I am total sci-fi geek. I love that. That's fantastic. Very into Star Wars. I've watched everything they have ever created.
Oh my God. Did you watch Andor?
So good.
Oh, so
So good.
good.
Like the start of the rebellion, I loved how they really went into the imperial side of things and like gave the
Yeah.
backstory. Like I was cheering for her, but I didn't want to.
Right? I'm like, damn, she's
Powerful
interesting.
woman.
Look at this strong woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so good. I was so surprised because I really thought it was better than the Boba Fett or maybe even the
I did too.
Mandalorian series.
Yeah. No, Andor was fantastic. It was so good.
So good.
Yeah. Just really
Yep.
like the characters were
Top
great.
notch.
Yeah.
Top notch. Oh my god, so good. I can't wait for season 2.
Uh-huh. Same.
They can just keep doing that forever. I'm okay with it. Keep doing
Mhm.
spin-offs of different Star Wars characters, totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny when I met my husband, one of the first pictures he's like we met online and one of the first pictures he sent me, he says, I'm a Star Wars fan. And he sends me a picture of this big bookcase and it's all Star Wars books. I was like, I had no idea that I didn't even know there were Star Wars books, let alone like hundreds of them.
I did not know that until right now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so there is so much lore for them
Yes,
to draw on. Yeah.
so good. My husband and I, we watched all the cartoons while I was pregnant with Rowan, and oh my god, we kept pulling up the different timelines. There's all these graphics
Yes.
people have made with timelines. I'm like, "Wait, where are we in the timeline? Like, what is
Uh-huh. What
happening
is
right now?"
happening? What's happening outside of off the screen?
Yeah, like, what's next? Where are we? What just happened before this? Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous and so much fun. And very fitting for polyamory relationships because 'cause you're like,
Yes.
"What is going on? Where are we? Where are you? Who's connected to who, what, where?"
Uh-huh. Yeah, let's see this family tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about, and actually that's funny. I just made that connection. Holy shit. Sci-fi and polyamory. I would say that was probably my introduction, or my like, oh, I could have relationships with everyone that I want to, was from reading sci-fi books.
awesome.
Yeah. I can't remember which ones because I've read a lot of fucking books.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but I
I know,
was
I was
very
just like
young.
that I remember, I read a Mercedes Lackey book called, like, some Magic's Pawn, and I was
Uh-huh.
so confused because she kept saying "he," and I was like, "But why are the 2 men kissing? I don't understand. It must be a mistype because I was raised Catholic. I
Oh, so
need to go back and
sweet.
read it again, right? So cute, and now I'm like, "Oh, that's great."
I
I
was
think
today years old when I realized I was reading about a gay relationship.
so good. A magical gay relationship. And,
Oh,
it was really meeting other polyamorous couples where it was like, "Wait, this is a thing. Wait, this is a possibility. Wait, I can have this too?" And
uh-huh.
listening to podcasts and reading
Yeah,
books and being like, "Oh, oh, it's okay that I've been attracted to lots of people at different times or have different interests with different people." Like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's okay. I I can feel that way. I can express that. I can articulate it and I can act on it. Wait a minute. That's neat."
It's amazing. It's so good. I remember in my early relationships, I'd be like, well, I love this person, but like, I feel like there's more. I feel like there could be more. I feel like they're not the best possible person in the world to meet all of my needs and do everything that I want. Now I have to dump them and go find someone else who's the best possible
And
single human in the
one human to
universe
rule them
to
all.
match me. Yeah, like, holy cow,
So much
what an
pressure.
insane treasure hunt we put ourselves through. Like, I'm gonna go find this magical totem or
Oh,
something. Like,
yeah.
like, we're looking for this thing. And then when you realize, oh, I can actually love this person as I love them, and that's enough. Like, everything I love about this is everything it needs to be. And I can have other people in my life that are just meet different parts of me.
Yeah. Like, oh, I get to have my needs met. They don't have to all be by the same person at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It blows my mind consistently still. We've been non-monogamous for 8 years. I mean, Rob and I have never been monogamous together. Like, we met and I was like, never doing that again. And he was like, cool, me either.
Right.
And now we're in love.
Mm,
Um, but it always blows my mind how unique each relationship is, how unique
I love that.
each like the way we come together physically, the way our conversations are, even like the way we text each other. It's unique between each
Yeah.
person that I'm in relationship with, and it fascinates me still.
I love that. So, my degrees are in psychology. I love studying humans,
Yes.
human interactions, like the coolest fucking thing. And I think knowing that, like, hold on, every single person has different preferences, different ways they like things, whether it's texting or video or being in person or getting, old-fashioned letters in the mail and then relating in person. And everybody gets to have their own preferences. And do your preferences match with someone else's in this moment in time or not? And can you love it for what it is when it is?
Yeah. Yeah, and that actually makes me think another really cool thing about it that just came to mind for me is the places where different partners like the same things, how
Mm,
unique it is. Because that's a thing that can be really challenging for people is like, oh, well, if they like that, then like now it's no longer a unique thing that we have. But actually, the
yeah.
places where they like the same things are also unique. It's so cool to be like, I can do this exact same thing with two different people, and it's a completely different experience.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. 'Cause it's a
Yeah,
different
when you say
feeling.
it, it seems logical.
Yeah, right? But feeling it, there's like a, well, I meet this need, and if somebody else does, then that's not gonna work.
Yeah, yeah. Like, now I'm no longer valuable.
Right, now I'm no longer valuable as a human or as like what we've agreed to do in this
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
I almost think, yeah, I feel very secure and devoted and excited in this marriage with my husband because it's like, yeah, we're doing this thing together and we get to do all these other cool things with other cool people. Yay.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Have you, I'm curious, have you had a like, did you and your husband have to, like, come out to people or, did you have a coming out story or,
Oh,
did
man.
people go, "Oh my god, what are you doing? You're married."
That's a great question. So I feel like the colored hair and the tattoos usually give it away that we're like pansexual at least. But, generally speaking, yeah, I'm like straight monogamous passing all the
Right?
time.
Mhm.
And so it's a privilege to like do the coming out thing because there's nothing about my life that normal people would see and be like, "Oh, her."
Right.
Like, um my husband is amazing and I've asked he's like, anything you want to share to anybody at any time, go for it. No issue whatsoever. And no,
Mm.
but I'm at a amazing stage of my life where I just have no fucks left to give.
Yeah.
Just none. So like it doesn't come up because I'm just not willing to be questioned about it. So I've said it loudly on the internet, like, yeah, parent, polyamorous, pagan, also married.
Yeah.
If that's your jam, come follow me. We march at dawn. If it's not, great. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So good. It's so
Thanks.
good. That's I've worked with a lot of people who that's a big fear, right? Is like what if people find out? People in our lives find out that we aren't doing the thing that they think we're doing.
Yeah.
Um
Aw.
and it you know, for most people comes back to down to like this fear of like then I won't belong, I won't be loved, I'll be kicked out of the people place. Like, and
Yeah.
then I'll be wandering the desert alone and I'll die.
Right.
And
Totally.
so we
Yes.
walk through like logically that's not actually what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
so finding like the kind of like the scale or the pros and cons of like sitting with that fear and living what feels inauthentically, like right, like living feeling
Yeah.
like you're living a double life and like the pressure and stress that that puts on you
So much.
versus taking that leap and potentially having people leave your life. Potentially. Most of the time that doesn't happen though. Most of the time people
Yeah.
go, "Oh, that's weird. I don't want to talk to you about it."
Yeah, pretty much. Like my mother and father are definitely in the like, that's weird. We're not talking about that sort of camp. Took them a while when I had a girlfriend to be okay with that. Well, that was a big coming out story because I got divorced and got into this amazing relationship like immediately.
Oh, and everyone was like, "Oh, she got divorced cuz she's gay."
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not gay. I like this woman. I don't like all women, but I like this woman. Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
always tell if people pin me down, I'm like, look, I'm 80, 90% into men, 10% into women. Just depends.
Just
And
depends.
just depends. And again, right? Depends on the day, depends on the human. I love being able to be attracted to all sorts of humans.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
my ex-girlfriend and I, we had to do this thing because my ex-husband was an asshole and he was a newly minted lawyer, fresh out of school, and he was
Mm,
threatening me left and right and was like, I'm going to out you to your parents. And we were like, fuck it. We're going to beat you to it. So we literally one night called up our closest friends and family and came out to each of them systematically. And it was painful and it was beautiful. The amount of friends who were like, we've got you. You're fine. Like,
Mm.
I love you. It's okay. I know it's scary and it's okay.
Yeah.
And that coming out was really hard.
Yeah.
And so the polyamorous one was kind of like, eh, what's the worst you're going to do to me? We already did this other thing.
Yeah.
And then after divorce, and it was a very messy breakup with my ex-girlfriend, I always joke it was like, Lord of the Rings when the dwarves got too close to the center of the earth. That's kind of how our relationship got.
Yep.
Too intense, like too inflammatory, twin flame thing happening. And
Mm.
so after those two experiences and quitting my corporate day job, I run my own business. Like my politics are part of my business.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? My husband's behind me. I don't care if anybody else is, but I think they are. And they
Right.
are.
Turns out,
Turns out
turns
there's a
out the
lot of
people who
us.
love you still love you.
And I think it's really hard to describe the amount of anxiety, fear, stress, frustration, worry that you feel when you're not living your authentic life that just
Hmm.
goes away when you can
Yeah.
do and say what you want to do and say.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe it because it's like there's this giant lump on your back that's just gone.
Mm. The
Yeah.
relief.
So much relief. And I know it's scary to come out or to be able to live authentically when there's real fear. And I worked in jobs. I quit my job at a small construction company because they were Christian conservative. And when I was getting divorced and getting with my ex-girlfriend, I was like, oh God, if they find out, like this is going to be a shit show. I don't want to deal with
Hmm.
this. And another job I had, the my boss was hiding that she had a wife because she didn't feel safe. And they even had like LGBTQ friendly policies and she didn't feel safe. So there's many opportunities where it's like, yeah, I want people to feel safe, to be fully
Hmm.
themselves. And it sucks
Yeah.
that there's so many spaces in society where that's not the case.
Hmm. Yeah. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Ugh. And also, there are a lot of spaces where that is the case,
Oh my
but
gosh.
and we just keep growing them and sharing them.
And right, meet one of us. We'll introduce you to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Um, And I was thinking about it. I don't have any polyamorous friends that aren't out about it. Like everybody's out about it, which is
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, excuse me. What is something that anyone can do for free to help them approach relationships in a healthier way?
Oh. Okay. Step one, have an open dialogue with yourself about what you want.
Mm.
What do you want? Journal it out, write it out, feel into it. What do you want in this moment? And really practice, like, I learned this term, I didn't know it was a thing, but self-consent
Mm.
of,
Yeah.
"Wait, do I like this? Do I not like this?" In so much as the food you're eating or the walk you're taking or the touch you're receiving or giving.
Yeah.
I think relationship to self is probably the number one free and important thing.
I love that. That's so good.
Thanks.
Oh, you're amazing. I could like probably
You're
talk to you all
amazing.
night long.
I would love that. We could just do more.
Right? Okay, I want to ask you another question before we finish because I have a
Yeah.
segment that I hold aside for supporters of the show on our Patreon, patreon.com/notmonogamous.
Yes.
And it's called Just the Tip.
Mm.
And so the question is, what is your best or favorite sex tip? Oh, is there anything that you want to share with listeners that I have not asked you?
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice asking for what you want, getting what you want, deciding that what you want wasn't what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Oh, practice and like you can change your mind.
At any time, at any
Yeah.
moment, at the next breath, you can change your mind.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yes. Thank you. Oh. Where can people find you?
Great question. Find me on all social media platforms. It's Emily Otto Rebel, OttoRebelle. And then the website is emily-otto.com. Oh, and I also have a podcast. It's the Emily Otto Show. So find me on Spotify and Apple.
Ooh, that's an easy one. I like that. And I'll put
Thank you.
everything in the show notes, so it'll be easy to just like click on.
Yay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Mhm. That was Emily Otto. And if you want to hear Emily's Just the Tip sex tip for supporters of the show, go to patreon.com/notmonogamous and become one of my friends with benefits or lovers. And you'll get all of the extras and behind the scenes stuff. It's real spicy. Go check it out. Bye.